endless corridors of outer space, to the depths of mystery beneath the seas and oceans, and the secrets of time locked in the earth itself, ABC Radio presents The World We Live In.
ABC Radio, coast to coast, with Life magazine, America's leading picture magazine, with a readership of 26.5 million, presents The World We Live In. Materials for these documentary programs are based upon Life's The World We Live In, one of the many great series in education and science which Life magazine regularly features to help you better understand the meaning of our age. Today, The World We Live In presents the fascinating story of the ocean of air that surrounds the world, with Charles Penman as commentator.
Ladies and gentlemen, take a deep breath. Oh, let's have it. Take a deep one. That's better. Now breathe out. Once more, if you please. Breathe in. Good. Now hold it. And let's go fishing. Hello out there. You having any luck?
Not a nibble in hours. I guess I'm...
Well, look, your cork is bobbing. You better put it in fast before it gets away. It didn't get away, did it?
I hope to tell you it didn't. Look at what we got. A fish.
Well, you can breathe out now. I'm sorry if you got a little blue in the face, but I wanted you to know how it feels to be a fish out of water. Fish, water. Man, air. It's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. And in case you object to being classed with a fish, let me tell you that without air to breathe into your gills, I beg pardon, your lungs, you'd very soon be a dead herring. For all his hard-won knowledge of the earth, man regards himself as a self-sufficient being dominating the surface of his planet. Virtually never does he picture himself in his real circumstance as a creature dwelling fish-like at the bottom of an ocean of air, hundreds of miles deep, on the floor of a great ocean of air that engulfs the world we live in. Now, 300 years ago, man knew virtually nothing about the air. But one day, a professor of the University of Pisa in Italy asked a question. His name was Galileo.
Does air have weight?
Weight, Master? Can nothing have weight?
No, Torricelli. Air brushes your face. Air resists you when you push your hand through it quickly. So air is something. Thus, it must weigh something.
But have you ever seen the air? No, for it is invisible. Can one experiment with something unseen?
Torricelli, tools and reason can probe the unknown and the unseen. Therein lies the answer to the weight of air. If only one knew what tools to use.
Though his professor's salary was only 3 cents a day, Galileo was the greatest scientist of his time. Yet it remained for his pupil, Torricelli, to grapple with the theory that air has weight and haul it in for a fact. In 1643, Torricelli conducted a famous experiment.
Observe. I take this long, hollow, upright tube of glass, sealed at one end, and fill it with mercury. With a finger, I stop the open end of this tube, and then upturn it in a bowl filled with mercury. I now release my finger, and behold, the mercury in the tube begins to run out. And then it stops. Why? What holds the mercury up in the tube? A bit of practical magic, eh, my pupils?
What trick of science is this, Signore Professor?
Not a trick. Not a trick, but a fact of great interest. The weight of air, yes, the weight of air on the mercury in the dish balances the column of mercury in the tube. Thus, proof that air does indeed have weight, pressure. And this is a device whereby the air's weight can be measured.
The air's weight can be measured. Science combined two Greek words to describe Torricelli's device: baros, meaning weight, and metroi, meaning measure. Baros, metroi. The origin of our word barometer. The funny thing about the barometer, though, people began to observe all sorts of strange goings-on.
The mercury rises, apparently for no reason. And sometimes it falls, apparently for no reason.
You know, when the mercury's high, the weather usually is good.
When the mercury's falling, it usually means a storm.
There was a Frenchman about this time whose mind was brilliant as a lightning flash. Name, Blaise Pascal. Profession, mathematician and philosopher.
Now, it is quite clear that air pressure changes with weather. Now, the next question is, does air pressure change also with height?
Pascal called upon his brother-in-law to assist him.
For the sake of science, I think you should take this barometer and carry it to the top of the Puy de Dôme.
Oh, you do you?
How else will I determine if air pressure changes with height?
You think everyone should do whatever you say. Tell me, what do you ever do yourself?
You wish to know?
I think.
Monsieur, where are you going?
To the top of the mountain, my boy. Why?
What is that, monsieur? That liquid in a little tube?
It is mercury.
And with this contraption, monsieur, you climb the Puy de Dôme?
Yes, it is for the sake of science I climb.
May I come with you?
If you like, my boy, come along.
Oh, monsieur, it is gay, this science.
Yes.
This is better than school. But now what great thing happens, monsieur?
What? Why, nothing more happens, mon petit Marcel. I descend now, and my brother-in-law shall write down in his papers that I have observed that the mercury falls as I climb. Therefore, air pressure is less on mountain tops. What is the matter? You seem disappointed.
Oh, monsieur, so much work for so little to learn.
Come along, my boy. You tell this to my brother-in-law.
Poor little Marcel. He preferred mountain climbing to going to school. In the vast ocean of man's learning, he was less than a minnow. But, and I hope all children listening to me will take heed, some children can become giant whales of knowledge if they study. For example, there was the son of the English Earl of Cork.
Amaverum quaeca notroiae qui primus abor.
He speaks Latin, Your Grace.
My son, yes. A bright lad, huh? Now, French, boy, French. Something from Scripture, eh?
Le bon Dieu est mon berger, tu n'aurais pas de besoin. Il me fait dormir dans la campagne verdante.
And how old is this child?
Sir, I was precisely 6 as of Tuesday.
Oh, Your Grace, I'm astonished.
Yes, tell me, sir. Where do you think such a lad will end up, eh?
All I can say, Your Grace, is the sky is the limit.
And the sky was the limit. for Master Robert Boyle was destined to become a big fish in man's efforts to understand the ocean of air that surrounds the world we live in. Many years later, a group of unknown young scientists began to gather at various taverns to discuss scientific matters. They called themselves the Invisible College. Robert Boyle was a member.
I submit, gentlemen, that all air is elastic. It can be squeezed and expanded as much as you please. Now then, according to my theory, the volume of a gas is inversely proportional to the pressure. Or in other words, if the pressure on the gas increases, its volume decreases. Is that perfectly clear? Is it perfectly clear to you, innkeeper?
Is it perfectly clear to these other gents, sir?
Of course. They're all members of the Invisible College.
Why do you call it that, sir?
Because that's what it is.
But I don't see no sign of no college, I don't.
Naturally not. That's because it's invisible.
Neither Robert Boyle nor his theory of the nature of atmosphere, known as Boyle's Law, were in the public eye at the time, and the same was true of the Invisible College. But in 1663, due largely to Boyle's immense contributions to science, Charles II made the college not only visible, but royal.
I, Carolus Secundus, King of England and the Isles, do herewith grant charter to the Invisible College, which we desire to be known henceforth as the Royal Society.
Man knew now that air had weight, that weight could be measured. He knew also that air pressure changes with weather and also with height. He knew that air was elastic, that it could be squeezed or expanded, that its pressure was greatest near the earth due to the air above pressing down. When knowing the behavior of air, science next asked,
What is air? What makes it up? What are its elements?
and the first correct answer came from a master French chemist, Anton Laurent Lavoisier.
I have said that one element of air is a gas which is necessary to sustain both life and burning.
And what else, monsieur?
Since its combination with other elements is often acid, I have taken two Greek words meaning acid producer and combined them into a new name for the gas.
And that name, Monsieur Lavoisier?
Oxygen.
Citizen, this is not enough.
Not enough. This is a tremendous contribution to France and the world. This man is a great scientist. A revolution has no need of scientists who are not sons of the people. Scientists, yes. Noblemen, no. Lavoisier, you are an enemy of the French Revolution. Your sentence, aristocrat, is death on the guillotine.
So perished one of the great chemists of history, the discoverer of oxygen, one of the chief elements of the air we breathe. But there were other elements as yet undiscovered, and it remained for quiet, unrevolutionary Scotland to produce Daniel Rutherford of the University of Edinburgh.
If a substance is burned in a closed jar of air, and if the gases formed by the burning are absorbed by certain chemicals placed in the jar, then about 4/5 of the original air remains in the jar. The 1/5 used up is, of course, oxygen. The 4/5 remaining we shall call nitrogen.
Nitrogen and oxygen, the two chief gases in the air. Nitrogen, 78%, oxygen, 21%. The other 1%, miscellaneous gases, and well, let's not go into that. Man lives at the bottom of a great ocean of air, pressing down upon the entire Earth at 2,116 pounds per square foot. The whole burden of the atmosphere pressing down at 5 quadrillion tons. Though you are unaware of this weight because of the equal and counterbalancing pressure of the air and fluids within your body. Yes, man lives at the bottom of a great ocean of air. And by the 19th century, he lifts his eyes and looks upward and wonders what would it be like to rise from his earthbound floor into the beckoning blue of the sky above. It is an afternoon in 1862 near London. A primitive 60-foot balloon encased in a web of rigging ropes from which hangs a basket soars like a cork slowly rising into the vast ocean of the air. In the basket are two men, James Glacier, a Scottish scientist, and Henry Coxwell, his navigator. They have journeyed 5 miles straight upward. The temperature has dropped to freezing, then to 0. And now, at 5 miles...
What is the temperature, Coxwell? I can't see the thermometer. But there's no mist here. Not mist. My eyes can barely see. I scarcely breathe. Perhaps we'd better call a halt here. Release the valve, Coxwell. Release it, man. I'm trying. Glacier, it's tangled in the rigging. We're going on, up and still with. Easy now. Don't panic. Not panic. Weakness. Everything beginning to fade. Blur. Glacier. Coxwell.
And here, more than 5 miles above the surface of the earth, two men in a swaying basket, one lying unconscious. Now Glacier realizes that he must take action or perish. Numb with cold, he manages to climb the rigging of that tiny silk ball dangling in frigid space. Gasping, struggling, he is close enough to the valve line to grasp it in his hand. But the temperature has taken its toll. His hands are frozen. In a final surge of desperation, he seizes the line between his teeth and, yanking frantically, finally tears it free. They descend slowly. And at 2:30 p.m., after 1.5 hours aloft, they land at last in a pasture near Ludlow, having come as close to death as man can come, and risen higher into the upper air than any had ever done before them. As creatures in the dark abysses of the deep sea cannot rise too far above the pressure environment in which they live, so man's fragile body cannot survive unprotected into the upper levels of air. In the shadow of the 20th century, a French scientist, Léon de Bourg, sent primitive instruments into the upper air in balloons without human passengers. In 1901, he announced,
there are at least 2 levels of atmosphere above. The troposphere extending to approximately 7 miles. And above that, the stratosphere, 20 miles high.
Then, in 1902, Oliver Heaviside, an English physicist, and Arthur Kennelly, an American electrical engineer, reveal a new level of atmosphere above the stratosphere.
A level beginning 25 miles above the stratosphere, which contain electrified particles called ions. This layer has the ability to reflect radio waves back to the Earth's surface. Without this layer, the radio beams, which travel in a straight line, would go shooting out into space. Because of the ions present, we call this level the ionosphere.
Radio waves bouncing back from the ionosphere. You know, that's why this program was heard by you instead of by the man in the moon. Today, man probes the ocean of air in which he lives with innumerable devices, mechanical emissaries with which he gains factual, on-the-spot details about regions of the upper air where he himself could not survive.
It's alive. What is that thing hanging in the more, Albert?
Hey, it looks like a parachute with some kind of infernal dingus of a box hanging off it.
Is that a tag or something I see?
Well, sure enough, it is.
What's it say?
Well, I'll be darned, Ma. Listen to this. Fragile, handle with care.
Oh.
Notice to finders. This instrument belongs to the United States government. A balloon sent up by a weather station carried it to a height of about 12 miles.
Well.
The balloon burst, and the instrument came down slowly on the parachute while in the air the instrument acted as a radio broadcaster of the temperature, pressure, and moisture of the air through which it passed. If found, mail at any post office or post box or hand it to your rural carrier. Thank you.
Now, in the concrete encased shelter on a takeoff field, a group of experts direct preparations for another kind of stab upward into space.
Rocket standing by, sir.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
In 6.5 minutes, the rocket goes 250 miles into the sea of atmosphere above, and data is instantaneously recorded on film in the flying rocket.
Altitude, 49.7 miles. Presence of meteors, 7 meteor pings per second. Cosmic rays, 100 cosmic ray counts per second.
With advanced electronic instruments borne by rockets, with balloons ascending the reaches of atmosphere where man himself could not survive. With these and with radar, the invisible eye that translates distant clouds and storms in terms of a milky image on a tiny earthbound screen. With findings from these, man conjectures and develops theories and conclusions to learn of the invisible ocean, the air. Let us now, like creatures of the deep reaching up into the air above us, move to its different levels and experience the awesome and wondrous miracle that envelops our planet in an invisible blanket.
From the rich and vital atmosphere does earthbound man breathe, to the thin and fragile outer levels in the loftiest reaches, blending at some unknown point, anywhere from 240 to 6,000 miles up in the airless infinity of outer space. 1,000 miracles of the air enact their dramas of nature and its immutable laws. From outer space, a great meteor, many tons of heavy metal and rock, hurtles toward this satellite of a second-rate star, the planet called Earth. If the meteor strikes, it will shatter a city. But first, it must assault the ocean of air, whose friction heats the meteor to incandescence so rapidly that it explodes and falls in minute fragments, harmlessly, slowly to the earth below. The sun, the blazing inferno of our solar system, emits rays of dangerous power that would murder all Earth life with its pitiless glare. But these powerful emanations encounter the oxygen molecules of the upper air and produce a thin curtain of gas called ozone, which filters out all but a small portion of the sun's lethal ultraviolet rays, permitting only enough life-giving fingerings to stab through, to kill bacteria, to help green things grow, and to tan the skin of a man basking on the shores of the sea.
atmosphere protects us from excessive ranges of temperature. It acts as a blanket, keeping fairly uniform temperatures at the Earth's surface. However, above our atmosphere, the blanket is lost due to the scarcity of air. And here, a man would broil on one side and freeze to death on the other. From the bounty of the air, we sprang. Deprive us of its nurturing oxygen, and we perish. Remove it as a sheltering curtain between us and the capricious savagery of interstellar space, and we should be parched into poisonous ash or smashed into shapeless shards and fragments.
Yes, we are the creatures of the vibrant elemental depths of the ocean of air, helpless without its benefits, and with them sheltered, fed, and blessed. How fitting was the accolade of Shakespeare's Hamlet when he said, "This most excellent canopy, the air, the oceanic source and shield of the life of the world we live in."
Next week, The World We Live In dramatizes the exciting, terrifying story of prehistoric monsters, the great age of dinosaurs. Be sure to listen.
The World We Live In is presented by ABC in cooperation with Life magazine, based upon life's The World We Live In, typical of the many features which Life magazine, on your newsstands every week, presents to help Americans better understand the age in which they live.
The World We Live In is produced and directed by Sherman H. Dreyer. Today's program, in association with ABC, featured Grace Keddy, Ivor Francis, Ross Martin, Frank Behrens, Court Benson, and Robert Dryden. Commentator for The World We Live In is Charles Penman. Original music by Ralph Norman and Al Deck. The orchestra was conducted by Mr. Norman. Today's script by Peter Barry and Mr. Dreyer. Sound effects by Hal Johnson. Engineer Jack Kelly. This is Les Griffith speaking. This is ABC Radio Network.